Everybody, how's it going? Happy Tuesday morning here at the courthouse in front of the cafeteria window. That's what's behind me. Just getting ready here to go in. As I'm sure everybody knows, Tory Lanez was not sentenced yesterday. They're continuing the hearing this morning at 10:30 a.m. That's an hour from now. We're on Pacific Los Angeles time. And people are thinking it'll be done by noon, but it's hard to say for sure. But I'm thinking it absolutely will complete today. We're going to find out what his sentence is, whether he's going to go to prison, whether he's going to get probation. It's important to remember that legally he's presumed ineligible for probation. So his lawyer's argument right now is trying to convince Judge Hereford that this is an exceptional case and that the mitigating circumstances warrant probation. So it was a long day yesterday. I mean, I did get a chance to go over my notes when I sat down, just with the handwritten notes and just kind of the stress of just the everything. It's hard to get everything down. And there's a question that gets asked in court a lot of witnesses, especially in memory, when they're trying to refresh their recollection on something. They say, is your memory stronger later than it was, immediately at the time? And of course they ask that because the question is kind of obviously no. Obviously your memory doesn't get stronger with time. You remember things closer right after they happen. But really with trials and covering stuff in trials, especially when I have to take handwritten notes, I honestly do feel like my memory gets a little bit better when I'm maybe a couple hours removed from the hearing and I can sit down and go over my notes and kind of be like, aha, because I'll come out of there and kind of remember the big stuff, but a lot of it is what happened immediately right before court ended. So it takes a while to kind of go through the notes and see what's going on. So glad to see everybody in here. If you have any questions, please ask them. Somebody says, what's the minimum that I think he'll get? I'm just not sure. I do think he's going to get prison time, and I think it's going to be pretty substantial. A judge in Orange County who's not at all involved in this case, and I don't think knows Judge Hereford, was like, I think he's definitely going to prison. He said, in California, if you shoot someone, you go to prison. Doesn't everybody know that? He said, so I think it's definitely coming. And just some of Hereford's comments yesterday, and I'm gonna bring up my notes, but I'll keep going through the questions here. If people do super chats, I'll try to prioritize those, but it's coming in pretty good here, so I should be able to monitor it. But Jose Baez really went all out just in terms of his emphatic descriptions of Lanez. Like, I remember there was a moment when Judge Hereford was asking about, like, what is the nexus between alcohol and the crime if he didn't do anything? He said, his exact quote was, he said, well, the crime involved alcohol. Judge Hereford said it's obvious the shooting involved alcohol. And just because somebody drinks a lot doesn't mean that they're an alcoholic. And he was questioning where the evidence of that Lanez is an alcoholic, because prosecutors were bringing up that the doctor's reports and the assessment of Lanez that talks about how he would be a good candidate for treatment and he could be released to a rehab center, it's all based on his own self-reporting. So he's talking about this alcohol problem that really isn't repeated at all in this from anyone else. The 76 letters of I guess they're technically, the legal term maybe would be character reference letters, but people call them letters of support, but they don't mention anything about an alcohol problem. And prosecutors brought up, Alex Bott brought up the fact that, we hadn't had any reports of Lanez having any kind of trouble with that. He was, I think, almost 29 when he shot Megan. And when you see the video outside the police car after the shooting, he's walking, he's not stumbling around. He was saying it doesn't look like somebody who's completely inebriated. And Bott was saying that this kind of exemplifies what Lanez does to just try to avoid accountability for his actions. And Hereford did seem to kind of take issue with the nexus between alcohol and the crime when he's saying that he didn't commit the crime. He was saying, what is alcohol responsible here for if he's saying he didn't do anything? And Baez was saying, yelling, the things in the car. He said, there are a lot of decisions that transpired to escalate the situation. It wasn't a pretty situation. It wasn't that young man's finest moment. He said, I understand the court is struggling to put alcohol into context. And then he had one moment where Baez is just such a showman. I mean, a lot of lawyers have theater skills too, actor skills. You see that with the YouTube lawyers too, but Baez was just playing it up. I mean, he's like, this is a young man with an alcohol problem and he's worth saving. It's like, oh my God, I mean, I just don't know if the judge is buying it that much, because he did say, and I think I said yesterday in the live that he'd found a mitigating factor in the charitable work. He hasn't actually said that yet. We're going to hear more about that today. He did say yesterday the mitigating factor that Judge Hereford found was he doesn't think that Lanez is a likelihood to commit another violent crime if he gets out of prison. He didn't expand on that at all or explain his reasoning. We might hear more about that in there, but that is one thing I heard. I think we're going to be hearing more of a decision on these other aggravating factors in there. He did say that he's not going to consider the lack of remorse, and he basically just said that he thinks if he does, the appellate court would overturn him. He had some cases on that, but he made it really clear that he thinks the social media posts, the songs, all the actions in the months, the years since then are a major aggravating factor in this case. And he even basically told prosecutors not to worry about him not taking into consideration lack of remorse, because he's going to take into consideration the social media posts, the song lyrics, that kind of thing, all that stuff. So I don't think that bodes well for a short prison sentence. How long it's going to be, I don't know. But like I said, I don't think probation is a reasonable option here. And one thing Alex Bott did bring up when arguing against the probation recommendation was saying the idea that Lanez can be supervised if he's released, especially if he's facing immediate deportation. How can he be expected to go live in a residential drug treatment program that he doesn't think he's actually qualified for that? And they had Ed Wellborn, who's the lawyer who was brought in last month, has used her in a lot of cases over the years, but she's a drug and alcohol, runs a drug and alcohol center, and she was in court and testified, and she even said that she's ready to go pick Lanez up from jail and take him to the center and he can live there and complete the therapy program. But like I said, going in here, I mean, it's a first-degree assault with a firearm charge. With the enhancements, he's legally considered ineligible for probation, and the burden is kind of on the defense to try to show that he somehow deserves it. And just, I mean, one of the letters that he had that they referenced said that thinks that he should be sentenced to community service for this. Remember, the person who was sitting next to me had like just a natural kind of audible scoff reaction when he heard the community service, because it's just, you just erase all the names from the case, all the facts of the case, and you just say, yes, somebody was convicted of first-degree assault with a firearm, and they're asking they be sentenced to community service. It's just, it's a preposterous thing to ask for. So, but you ask for something and you hope that maybe it'll get you, somewhere in between or something. So perhaps that's what they're doing. One quote I wanted to get out and make sure I get in the article was Baez's quotes about the yelling and the arguing, because it's like what exactly happened here. But then also the social media post, Baez was really arguing against the judge considering any of that, but did say that the behavior, that Lanez's behavior wasn't great, and that he's not proud of it. So I thought that was significant. But he was saying he doesn't think that that should be considered part of the sentencing at all. So let's see if we have any more questions in here. I mean, it's kind of crazy that that it's a 2-day sentencing. But I'm kicking myself because I wanted to start this live by just giving a huge "I told you so" to every single person out there who doubted me when I said that this could be 2 days. Because I've been saying that for a couple of months, that this is going to be 2 days. And with Judge Hereford, how could it possibly be a 2-day sentencing? I mean, sentencings aren't more than 2 hours unless you have a big long list of victims who want to make statements. But it goes back to that old saying about when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Judge Hereford, look at everything that he's done in this trial, like the trial, the motion for new, everything. It's just, this was definitely going to extend into Tuesday. Whether it extends into the afternoon, I think I'm not sure. I am feeling pretty safe to say that I don't think it's going to extend into Wednesday. I mean, come on, that'd be crazy. What else is there to talk about here? But he's obviously being completely transparent here, and any information about the list of names who wrote, and obviously that is a big thing. And I know people really want to see the letters, and the judge said that he's making them public. He's putting them on the public record. It's going to be kind of a pain to get them, because it still just blows me away that it's 2023. This is Los Angeles, like one of the biggest court systems in the country, if not the biggest, and they don't have criminal case documents online. Like, if this is federal court, I mean, right now I could just go into the file and like share screen it and show you guys, and we could have this like civics legal lesson about all the documents, but you can't do that in state superior court cases. So I'm going to have to go to the clerk's office and get actual paper copies of the letters and then try to get them in. But that's absolutely a priority. And that's why when the judge started reading off the names and a short description of who read the letters, obviously like people were writing that down because that's important. It's a little noisy around here if there's some background noise. But when you're writing by hand and you're going to be in there all day, you kind of got to preserve your handwriting notes. So sometimes I'm just like, I'm not going to take notes on something that I know I can get afterwards. So I did write down a ton of notes just on different names, and Hereford was spelling out the names. But when somebody is reading something like that and you're just not knowing what's coming and you're trying to take the notes, then you're just kind of it's hard to get everything, But the letters were, there was the police chief in Missouri who talked about Lanez's charity work and his he said his music's influential. I mean, I remember there was somebody who said that Lanez bought a wheelchair. There was an artist who was struggling and felt suicidal and said that Lanez had inspired him to encourage his stuff. I mean, there were a lot of really, really positive things in there. The one I found funny, because you're kind of used to hearing them, and then all of a sudden you hear one, you're like, wait a minute, what? I mean, Iggy Azalea was one that caught my attention, but then also the doctor who treated him for hair loss and said that he has been treating other people for hair loss, that Lanez has counseled other people who are going through hair loss. I was just like, oh wow, they're really pulling out all the stops here. Do you think it's 2 days because Tory will get 10 plus? No, but I do think that the judge, like if he does a 10 plus sentence, he just wants it to be, totally transparent. Here's his thinking, that kind of thing. So I think that, I mean, I'm not sure the fact that it's 2 days indicates it's going to be 2 to 10 years, but it just indicates he's taking it seriously. And part of it, a lot of it is, it's a really, really high profile case, and he just wants to get it all out there. I did see Iggy Azalea's tweet about how she was told that the letters were just going to be for the judge. And I'm not passing judgment on her for saying that, because I am a believer that somebody told her that, but it just depends on the judge. And most of the time, and especially as a journalist, I think they should always be made public, and they usually are. And I was dealing with it a couple of weeks ago with the developer who was sentenced for bribing the city councilman, the LA city councilman. He had a ton of letters, and I think his letter to the judge is sealed because he included some medical information, but it wasn't beforehand. But just last night, there's a politician in LA whose sentencing papers are in for a bribery case, and apparently he filed a bunch of letters, and he's saying that he wants them sealed, and just this other reporter who's covering it was like complaining to me about it, like, how can they do that kind of thing? So yeah. Somebody wanted me to respond to academics, and I watched his thing, and I honestly don't think that we are like completely on the different page about it. Like, as I said in my video about that story that I did, like, I don't think it actually makes him look bad in there. I mean, he got the report, he published it, which, like I said, if somebody gave me that report, I would publish it. I saw him saying that it's factually inaccurate that the prosecutors or the judge found that Lanez leaked it to academics. I'm like, well, Lanez's own lawyers said that. I mean, they described that's how it happened in the document. So if I can respect that. He doesn't want to ever reveal who gave him that document. Like, he shouldn't have to do that. But the fact is, I mean, even Lane's own lawyers say that the judge concluded that Lanez was responsible for the leak to academics. I'm not like criticizing academics for, publishing it or whatever he does. And I thought it was kind of funny when he brought up the internet commenter thing, because I did kind of struggle with like, how do you describe him? And maybe I should have added like multimillionaire in front of it or something, because I mean, I do think there are a lot of people, and especially like people in the legal community who read my stuff, who don't really realize like what a thriving community that is, and how, I mean, he's like a mogul who built this whole thing. So yeah, I don't take any offense by it. I'm not here to like start some kind of feud with him. I think there's a lot of like personality stuff that goes on in this that I don't totally want to participate in. But somebody asked who the Missouri chief of police was that vouched for him. It was the chief of police in New Haven, Missouri, Chris Hammond something. And that's why when I was writing down the names, I was like, instead of like wasting all this time trying to get these names down, I mean, you're going to be able to get the letters. So obviously that'll be the big thing to just get them all in there. Let's see. It's 9:45. There's people out, cameras and stuff. I mean, I think yesterday there were more people here because there was some kind of thinking that maybe Megan would show up, but obviously she didn't. We heard that yesterday, that her statement was read aloud in court. Her statement. And one thing, I did have a couple typos in there yesterday. Sorry, it's just things get a little crazy out there, and you're trying to get everything in as much as possible. But her statement, she said she hasn't gotten a moment of peace or a day of peace, and he lied to anyone that would listen, and paid bloggers to disseminate false information about the case on social media. He released music videos and songs to damage my character and continue his crusade. At first, he tried to deny the shooting ever happened, which, gosh, people are still doing that too. It's just crazy, the vitriol and like misinformation on this. I saw something on Twitter today where somebody was just like, "Oh, I'm so sick of this case. Like, how her injuries don't match somebody who was shot in the feet at point blank range." It's like, yeah, they don't, because nobody's ever saying that she was shot in the feet at point blank range. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. But, trying to see some comments here that aren't just like troll crap. So I saw a comment on Baez's video the other day, or last night. If you haven't seen that, I've got a video up of him talking. That's talking about the tabloid aspect of the reporting or something. And honestly, my thought was when Baez was talking, it's like, is it my job to just put him on camera like this? But I mean, it kind of is. It's like, he's a lawyer in a high profile case, and people want to hear what he says. And remember when I was working at the Spokesman Review in Spokane, and we would cover breaking news, there was like a police shooting. There were always police shootings up there, but I covered a murder case, and it's one of those things where you feel like you've done all your reporting, you've talked to the victims, you've got the criminal records in there, you've got full quotes, you've got the police side of it. The story is not going to change at all, but then you hear about, the police are doing a press conference, and it's like, well, do we need to go to that? I mean, because it's just the police doing TV clips and trying to get on TV and everything. And I remember an older reporter once told me that we always go to those. That it doesn't mean that your story is going to change and that you're going to rewrite the top of your story to reflect this canned quote from the press conference. But if there's a press conference that the cops are doing in a case that you're covering, of course you go to it. I mean, why would you not go to it? That's why, I mean, when Baez is out there talking, it's like, ask him a question, but I also got the impression that he is ready for war on that media stuff. Like, that guy's not there to mess around with that stuff, and he knows exactly what he's doing, and he would have no qualms about kind of battling with a reporter like that. And especially when there are all those other reporters or media people around asking questions, I kind of feel like it's best to just kind of sit back and just take it all in and put it on video, you know? Do you have any more questions here? One thing I've really got to do is just go through my notes and my article and put everything
together on there. Somebody says, is the sketch artist still in court? Yes. Mona's so funny. There's actually two. There's Bill and Mona. They're both really good. They're both like their own style. I know Mona. I mean, I just talked to Mona more than Bill, but Bill's cool too. But Mona, yesterday she texted me. She's like, Megan, what was going on yesterday? Why didn't the judge just cut all that stuff off for being cumulative and get on with the thing? It's like, yeah, I'm not sure, but she did say see you tomorrow, so I'm sure she'll be in court. And this has so much attention. I mean, I've gotten some people from BBC want to talk to me. I talked to somebody at the Toronto newspaper, that kind of thing. There's Zion. Zion asked if, how will he be able to see the sentence live? Sorry, that was the wrong one. But, you can't. They don't allow cameras in there. Some LA Superior Court judges have allowed, but it just depends on the judge, and there's been no cameras allowed at all. We can't even we can bring electronics in technically, like you can have your phone off, but you have to take notes by hand, which I can the courtroom is so small that we're all so crammed together that having all those people like typing on laptops would be kind of loud and distracting. But I also just feel like they need to kind of figure something out on that. I mean, come on, gosh. But yeah, I know everyone's really interested in the deportation stuff, but I mean, as I've said, I mean, there's not much concrete in that other than Alex Bott just saying that he faces deportation, but it's not like it would be the district attorney's office in charge of the deportation. So I'm sure they're just kind of, sitting back on that. But maybe we'll hear more of it today from Judge Hereford. Oh, I saw somebody asked her, like, why are you outside? Isn't the sentencing going on? No, it's not for 40 minutes or so. And just the way things are up there, it's just so much drama in the hallway, and it's so uncomfortable. Like, the building just screams 1970s. It's kind of cool to be in because there's so much history at this building. I mean, the 9th floor where Tory's sentencing is, that's where the O.J. Simpson trial was. And it's so once you're here, it's like to bring that up all the time. It's like, yeah, this is where trials happen and celebrities are. But especially for people around the country, I always try to bring up the fact that, yeah, this is where the O.J. Simpson trial was. But you could just name off all the celebrities who've had trials here. One big one that people talk about is Michael Jackson's doctor. The Michael Jackson child molestation trial was in Santa Barbara, but when the doctor went on trial for the wrongful death or manslaughter case, it was here, and I've heard that was a pretty big one. I meant to highlight Zion's comment. He asked if Baez called her the alleged victim. And I'm trying to think if I heard the actual phrase alleged victim. And I'm not sure if I did, but he definitely kind of danced around. He called it the incident and that kind of thing. I mean, he's not saying that Tory shot anyone. And he did talk about how, Meghan was able to hire the best lawyer in the country. I'm assuming he's referring to Alex Spiro. I think we can always debate on who's the best lawyer in the country, but he's definitely prominent. And, just talked about how she's done really well for herself and her career has flourished. And because prosecutors Alex Bott brought up yesterday that all the stuff that you hear about Tory just seems to be about making him out to be the victim, and that we haven't heard anything about Meghan in this whole thing. So somebody says, when will we hear the verdict? It's like, yeah, seriously. I think there's a chance it will be before noon. Like, it'll be like 11:30 or something, and we'll all be out. We'll have the exact number on it. But you just never know with Hereford. Like I say, I just want to give the biggest I told you so to everyone who thought I was wrong when I said that this was gonna go 2 days. Thanks, Landon Turner, for the support. Appreciate you guys. Try to find some more. Any last minute predictions? No. I mean, I guess the biggest thing today is obviously what's his sentence, but then what is he going to say to the judge? Because he'll get a chance to do that. So I'm sure he'll say something. It's just kind of a matter of what. I think the judge just likes the attention. Somebody said, and I think I'm not. I do get the impression that Hereford does not like do a lot of big like litigation cases like this, and this just kind of reminds him of the fact that, you know, he likes this stuff. He was a lawyer. He went to law school. Like, I mean, I've had a lot of criticisms of him and just the way he runs his courtroom, but I definitely don't think he's a moron. I mean, his how interested he is in the case law and how knowledgeable he seems. But just the whole show of what he's doing, no other judge would like allow this kind of questioning of witnesses, that kind of thing. There's an attorney I talked to who knows him or worked in his courtroom like years ago and was like, yeah, I don't understand why he's doing this. He doesn't need to give them all this stuff. But then he said, but you go ahead and ask anyone who knows David if the things he does make sense. And if anyone is really interested in the judge, I'm not going to bring this up, but like present it on screen. But my favorite website is the Roving Room, which is like Yelp for judges. All the lawyers could go on and review judges. And my theory is that it's generally pretty accurate. You can kind of tell when a lawyer is just upset that the judge ruled against him. Go to the Roving Room and read Judge Hereford's review. He only has 2 last time I checked, and they're pretty old, but one of them is pretty vicious. And I'm like, this really sounds like it was written by somebody like who works in his courtroom. So therovingroom.com, David Hereford. But, you know, one sign on this is, and what everyone should remember, is he remanded Lanez like on the spot. Prosecutors didn't even have to ask for that at all. Because I remember during the trial, I brought that up. I was like, if he gets convicted, prosecutors are going to be putting huge pressure on Judge Hereford to remand him. And they didn't even need to say anything. He just immediately remanded him. He was like, the defendant will be remanded to the custody of, yeah. So, I mean, if people were thinking that he was just going to go way easy on Lane, like if he had not remanded him, that would be a huge, like, what is going on here? But thanks everybody. Probably should get in. The big thing is I want to get a story out for everybody as soon as he's sentenced that has, you know, a lot of background. The tweets are great. They're a way to kind of bring people into the story, but I want to do a big article on that. So I'm gonna go back in and do that. I should be able to do this during the noon hour too, hopefully. And hopefully we have a sentence by then. And somebody says, why do you think this case in particular has taken so long? And part of it is like the celebrity in it, but really I just think it's the judge. I mean, Harvey Weinstein was a big celebrity case, although it didn't get nearly the attention that got. And he was convicted, a couple weeks before Lanez, and he had his motion for new trial hearing and sentencing back in January. And the judge just shut down the motion for new trial, although I thought it actually raised some pretty serious issues. But I mean, it was just dealt with completely differently. So one example is it maybe is a case, and I'm wondering if the court is thinking that they should have assigned it to long cause, which is like the Harvey Weinstein, Danny Masterson case, because the judges in long cause are kind of considered a little more refined or capable of dealing with it. But the thing is, it's not a complex case. And the idea that a first degree assault case would be in complex criminal court is like, no, it's a trial court case for Judge Hereford or some of the other judges up there. And I don't know how the assignments work, but I'm assuming it was randomly assigned. And one thing I will say is he obviously is taking it seriously. I mean, he wants to be fully transparent. I appreciate the fact that he said all those letters are going to be made public. He made a point of making the motion for new trial, the supplemental that had been filed under seal. He put all that on the public record. So there's definitely things to praise Judge Hereford for. But I just remember during the trial being like, why do we not start until 10:30 and then we don't start until 11? And witnesses that could get done in like the morning end up taking 2 days. I mean, the fact that Kelsey Harris had to come back the next day, it's just a lot of judges would run things totally differently. But this is the day, I think. The August Alsina thing, and that's one thing. These are the things I've got to get in the article. The judge did say that he's not considering the Alsina thing at all, and I think that's just because it's unadjudicated. I mean, he hasn't been convicted of assaulting him, and it would be one of those trials within a trial thing. So while the other violations, like the discovery order violation with DJ Academics allegedly, and Rolling Loud Music Festival. He's going to consider those, but he's not considering Halcina. So that's the only time they really mentioned it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. It sounds like the judge is not happy with Tory at all. Yeah, I mean, he's so like temperamental. Like he hasn't flared up or shown that he's really angry, but I've always thought it was pretty kind of obvious that he thinks Lanez is guilty. And I mean, he makes a point of, he always calls Megan the victim. And I think the stuff that he said about, he sees the social media posts in this case and the post-shooting actions as being a major aggravating factor in this particular case. That's pretty significant, you know? And I mean, I was thinking about Lanez's dad's apology, because his dad was really emotional when he apologized to Judge Hereford and just said that, you know, he wants the judge to know that he doesn't disrespect his courtroom at all. But I don't know. I'm just not sure. I would, you know, love to know what Judge Hereford thinks of it all. Gary Austin thanks me for the update. Thank you, Gary, so much. Glad I'm able to keep everybody reading this. I mean, there's just so much interest in the case. It'd be kind of crazy not to cover it. I meant to go over to the federal courthouse and check on Smokey Robinson, but haven't. He should be over there today, but there's a lot of stuff to cover. So anything I can do to like kind of bring people into the court system and let them know what's going on, I appreciate it. So, you know, we always say we reporters have a face for radio, but I used to go on TV. The first time I ever went on TV, actually, you guys can check it out on YouTube. Nancy Grace. I don't know if anyone remembers her. It was when I was up in Spokane, but I went on her like 8 years ago. But why is Smokey Robinson in the courtroom or in the court system? He's over in federal court. It's a civil suit. He's being sued by his former personal manager. It's a long case. It's supposed to go on trial, and I guess it's jury selection right now. I haven't checked on it in a couple days, so maybe it went away. But and it's a civil case, so it's not like he, excuse me, it's not like he has to be there. But he's on the witness list. It says he's going to testify in person. And a lot of the times with these civil cases, like the contract disputes, it's really personal for the litigants. So while they don't have to be there, they want to be there. So yeah, I'm going to go check out over there. It looks like there's some camera action over there. Well, there's always people up doing things. So somebody asked, did Tory Lanez have a criminal record in Canada? No. And actually, I talked to a reporter at the Toronto Star who's doing a story on it, and no, he wasn't really known up there at all. He had, I mean, they talked about how he lived, some of the things he experienced up there, but it was never like a run-in with the law. So great. I'm gonna leave before I do something stupid, put up some really horrible comment on accident or something. No, everybody's been great. Thanks so much for tuning in and seeing what we can do here. So 10:30, 28 minutes from now, we'll see. Stay tuned to Twitter, subscribe to get the story that I'm sending out. And thank you all so much. I'll try to set up another stream for this noon hour, but we'll see how that goes. Thank you.